All right, you guys, so it's like 11:15. We just walked in the door for my daughter's violin lessons. Everyone's starving. We need to get lunch going. And today is also our sourdough once a month bulk cooking day. So we are gonna whip up some really quick, easy, discard sourdough cornbread for lunch. All right, so today is sourdough day at our house. So once a month, we have a big sourdough cooking session. We make all of the things that we have for that month. We freeze them, and then we have them for the month, and we don't pull out our starter again until next month. So this method has worked really, really well for us. And so our staple things that we make are our deep dish pizza. So we do 4 crusts that we have throughout the month. We usually do a couple loaves of bread, and then I do a couple extra sourdough things just for fun with the remainder of our sourdough starter. And so today that's going to be this really quick and easy cornbread recipe. Some of the other things that we like to make are our easy discard pancakes, are just a super easy one. Tortillas are another favorite. Our scones we love to do. So usually by the time we have made our pizza crusts and our bread, we are kind of feeling pretty done. So with the remainder of the sourdough starter, I like to make things that are kind of just quick and easy. So that's why I often make our discard pancakes, because that's just with sourdough starter and it's really easy. And that's also why we love this sourdough discard cornbread, because it's just, you can just take your sourdough starter, there's no rise time necessary, and it's just really, really quick and easy and comes together really fast. And I also love it because we grow a lot of corn, dent corn here on our homestead, and so I'm always looking for ways to use up that corn that we have grown. All right, so to make this sourdough cornbread, the first step that you're gonna do is you're gonna need to make a buttermilk. So you can either use like a yogurt or an actual buttermilk or kefir, or you can do kind of the shortcut way, which is what we did today. And so that's just taking a cup of milk, and then you're gonna add a tablespoon of either vinegar or lemon juice. So I added a tablespoon of lemon juice to this. I already did this step. So this has been sitting for like 10 or 15 minutes, but you just wanna let that acid, that lemon juice, that vinegar sit in your milk for about 10-15 minutes, and that is gonna kind of naturally make this buttermilk. So get that going right away, and then you can start adding the rest of your ingredients. So for this sourdough cornbread, you need 1 cup of your sourdough starter. So this can be either active sourdough starter like we are using here, just because it's our sourdough day, and so we just have some extra active sourdough starter, but it doesn't need to be active sourdough starter. It can be discard sourdough starter as well. And so just the difference there to clarify, active sourdough starter is sourdough starter that has been fed within the last 12 hours. So it's bubbly, it's fresh, versus discard sourdough starter is sourdough starter that's not at its peak of freshness. It has not been fed, kind of been over 12 hours. It might have been sitting in the fridge for a few days or whatever. And so it's just sourdough starter, but it needs to be fed. It's not active. So that's kind of the difference between the two. And for this recipe, you can use either one, but we're using active here today. So we're going to get our 1 cup of sourdough starter, and then we're going to add our flour. So it's 1 cup of just a regular wheat flour, and we love using einkorn. That's our favorite kind of flour because it just tends to be easier to digest. It's non-hybridized. And then a cup of cornmeal. So I just finished grinding this also. We hand grind all of our grains, so that's another reason we only like to do sourdough once a month, because it's kind of a lot of work for us to grind all of our grains, but it's worth it, and we really enjoy that process as well. So we're doing a cup of cornmeal here. And then we'll add our buttermilk. We're gonna stir that together. Okay, so at this point you have 2 options. Once this is stirred together, you could let this sit on your counter for an hour or so, especially if you're using active sourdough starter, and let it rise a bit. Or you can skip that step and just add the rest of your ingredients and bake it right away. And like I said, because we are hungry and ready for lunch, I'm gonna skip that step, and we are just gonna bake this cornbread right away so we can have it here for lunch. All right, so that is all that stuff. Then we're gonna add the rest of our ingredients. So that's gonna be 2 eggs. and then a half a cup of your fat. And so this could be melted butter, melted coconut oil, melted leaf lard, whatever you like to use, just a melted fat of choice. We're using coconut oil today. All right, and then our sweetener. So we really love to use natural sweeteners as much as possible, and especially ones that we have that we can get locally or that we can produce ourselves here on our farm. So maple syrup or honey are usually our go-to options. Today I'm using honey because we are currently out of maple syrup, but honey or maple syrup is what we do, and it's a 1/4 cup of that. All right, and then we're gonna add a teaspoon of salt. Two teaspoons of baking powder, and then a half a teaspoon of baking soda. And that's it. That's all the ingredients. So we're gonna go ahead and mix this all up. And then you can cook this in either a, I usually do it in either an 8x8 pan, or today, I think this is 7x11. Yeah, 7x11. I find that those two kind of work interchangeably. Or you can cook them in cast iron, like a 10-inch cast iron skillet. If you're gonna cook it in cast iron, I would recommend heating your cast iron pan ahead of time. This will help it to not stick. Heat it and then grease your pan. So we're gonna mix this up. We're gonna pour it into our greased pan here. All right, so this is gonna bake at 350 degrees for about 35 to 40 minutes. It's a nice thick pan of cornbread, so it takes a little longer to bake. But that's it, you guys. This recipe is super easy. So if you're looking for a way to just use up some extra sourdough starter that you have on hand, give this cornbread a try. It's really easy. I'll link below to some of our other favorite sourdough recipes that we have, but hopefully this was helpful to you. So thanks so much for stopping by the farmstead today, and we'll see you next time.